You'll be the big dog when she's around, won't you?
Should come up in a minute. Yeah, I think she's gonna enjoy herself with that other one. We let them kind of play together for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just kissing it, and pushing it around, loving it.
Yeah. Yeah. She can be intimidated because it's too little,
Yeah.
you know, so.
She touching noses quite a bit.
Yeah.
And to me, they knew each other were.
They're like, yeah. It's like, hey, I know you. I'm trying to find them. I don't know where you get them. They're in there somewhere.
So we're up and running on Boxcast, and see us now on Facebook. Okay. So we are there. Okay. Good to be here this morning. Good to see everybody. I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to be coming on. And good to be back. And I wanted to say, before we get started, a sister Alice, she lost her husband in the middle of the week. And she's out of Singapore. She's a wonderful sister. And they actually came in 2014 to the Philippine meetings in December in Manila. And her husband was with her. He was in a wheelchair. But he wanted to come. He wanted to meet us, and just a wonderful couple. And I seen where she had lost Brother Chin. So be in prayer for her. She's been with him a lot of years. I don't know how long they've been married, but I know that they've been together a lot of years. So just, I know she had a tough time, had to take care of him a lot because of his health. And so the bright spot in all of it is he's much better now. Sister Alice, it's going to take her a little bit of time, no doubt, but it will be a little easier on her for the years that she has left here as far as physically. So be in prayer for her. We love her with all of our heart, and it's just touching to see love like that. When one goes away and the other one's here. My mother-in-law's that way right now. And so be in prayer for her too. So we're talking about Aquarius, and I was thinking I didn't sit down and really go through a lot. I thought to myself, I kind of want to just talk about what are we to expect in the age of Aquarius. And at the start of each age, you can go all the way back to the beginning. And at the start of each age, there's kind of a segue, if you want to call it that, into the age. And many things show up as you segue into the next age. I was thinking about Jesus, and he was in the age of Aries and was ready to go into Pisces, which the day of Pentecost came about in Gemini, but the sun entered Pisces. The Gemini was the month. But anyway, Jesus, when he was there, he came through Aries, he came through all of those things, and he came as the Messiah, and he was getting ready to leave that old age of the law and bring the sacrifice to reality. And as he had come to that point, Jesus was showing a sign of where he was going. You say, how did he do that? Well, thank you. He went to Calvary, Golgotha's heel, and he was hanging there between two thieves. And of course, you know the story. One of the thieves said, if you're the Son of God, come down off the cross. If you're everything people say you are, and you have all this power that people say you have, then come down off the cross, save yourself and us too. And of course, the other thief, he hung there and said, why are you railing against him? This man has done nothing. And there, you and I, we did what we did, but he's done nothing. And they kind of said, the one thief said, looked at Jesus and said, when you come to your kingdom, when you come to where you're going, remember me. And Jesus looked at him and said, this day thou shalt be with me. You're going to go with me into paradise. You're going to go into a totally different stage of eternity. But to me, Jesus was showing the sign of where he was going. He took the thief and said, you're going with me. Because that's what Jesus is going to do. Paul said he came as a thief in the night. And he come down through the church ages. There were 7 stars, so it was nighttime. And he entered the house of Pisces. He entered the church of the wilderness. And when he stepped in there, Proverbs, many things that were written about him said that, when a thief enters a house, if that thief is caught, then Proverbs says that thief shall restore 7-fold to that house. So here comes Jesus off the cross as a thief in the night. He goes through the church ages and steals all the jewels, all the glory and everything else. Like a thief, he steals it out. He showed where he was going to come back as with a thief, or in the garments of a thief. And then at the end of the ages, here stands William Branham at the end of the 7 church ages, after 2,000 years. And just like Proverbs said, if a thief gets caught in the house stealing, he's got to restore back 7-fold. What was Malachi 4? I will restore. And the prophet caught him in the house as a thief, stealing everything, and Jesus had to restore back all that was stolen, all that was lost, the lost things, the hidden things, everything that was stolen. He had to restore back 7-fold, or brought the 7 church ages up. Well, the age was changing. William Branham was getting ready to move us out of Pisces into Aquarius. Jesus was moving them out of Aries into Pisces. William Branham moving us out of Pisces into Aquarius. And he comes to opening the seals. And if you go and you take the same thought, Jesus hanging there, put on the garments of a thief and come down through the church ages as a thief in the night. William Branham starts off the 7 church ages in a breach between the church ages and the seals. He takes a long time talking about Native Americans, conservationists, all of these different things about the environment, and about how the Native Americans would take a buffalo and go right down to the toenails on the buffalo and save everything and make everything with it, make their teepees with it, wear their coats, do everything with it. Nothing of the buffalo was left over. They used everything. And then he went into a discussion about Geronimo. And he said Geronimo was a real gentleman. And he said that all that was taken from them would be restored. Well, just like Jesus used the thief as a representative, William Branham was using Geronimo. Come over into the seventh seal, the sixth seal, down at the end. And you know what Brother Branham does again? He takes off on Geronimo. Has him hanging on this side of the seals, has him hanging on this side of the seals. There he is. And he starts in on Geronimo again. He's a gentleman. He went out there. He all he had was mesquite. He was a real warrior, and he done this and he done that. He said they called him a savage, but I call him a gentleman. Well, what was going on? We were headed into the Aquarian age, and the nature of Geronimo and the things that he was doing was what was going to carry us into Aquarius. And that transition carrying us into Aquarius, look at it from 1963 to 2014, and just look at that, or 2011 I think, when the sun moved in, but into Aquarius, but William Branham moved us in 63 ahead of the sun. Look at that transition in there, and what do you see? Constant war, splittings, everything else. And that was that whole nature of Geronimo. Here they came out of William Branham's meetings, and you had, gosh, you could just keep naming them, Perry Green and Howard Capps and J.T. Parnell and Brother Ruddle and Brother Jackson and Brother Willard Crace and just on and on and on and on. And then, of course, down through that transition, you had, I can't remember a lot of their names, but the brother in Germany that rose up and became so big, and then Brother Earl Childers and many men, Paul Jones, the man out of India, I can't remember his name, Paul something, but they just kept raising up, and it brought great battles. And now here we came in 2014 in that spirit of Geronimo coming through all those battles, and we won those battles, and we entered in to that conservationist, that time of peace, when everything that we're looking at, every age, we're looking at the buffalo now, the great white buffalo, and we're looking at it and we're seeing every little piece, and we're using and following and paying attention to every piece of the coat, every hair, every piece of the meat, every sinew. We're making teepees out of and we're wearing coats, and we're taking everything that we've learned. We come through that war age, made the transition, and now we've come to an understanding that all that we have learned, we can use it. Everything, we can use it and continue to use it and become the great conservationist of all of these great things that happen. No matter where you go in any age, I don't care if you pull up Napoleon, Alexander, Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Hitler, William Branham, Paul, whoever you pull up, I can read about them. I can pay attention to what they did. I can take in that history, and it's going to help me. I'm going to use it as a conservationist. I'm going to use it to build my life around it and carry me on over. And when we do that, we've come to this age. And I was thinking about, in this age of Aquarius, what to expect. You've seen that back there, the entering in from Jesus into the thief, William Branham entering into the seals, and you've seen Geronimo, the conservationist, the style of living, the nature, everything. That's what he was talking about. And I was thinking, St. John, the 3rd chapter, it says we're born of the Spirit. So, and he goes on in the 4th chapter and he says God is a spirit, and those that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. So, if God is a spirit, which we know he is, and we know that we are God, and it's the Spirit that's in us, if that's true, then the Great Spirit doesn't look at us as flesh. We're born of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Spirit sees spirit. And I don't know why it's done this, but I don't trust it. So I'll be right back. So spirit sees spirit. Spirit doesn't see flesh. And I thank the Lord for that. He sees spirit. He doesn't see flesh and all of its issues. I guess we need to look and make sure this is still running, because that thing's acting like it's not running. Please give us just a moment. It looks like it's still running on Facebook, but I'm just not sure what's going on with that. It was doing just fine earlier. I don't want to stop the broadcast, because I think it's doing okay. You have to forgive me. Jessica knows how to run it, and she has been two things. She has been working every day for a good while, and she's now going to have a child. She's pregnant, which is great. Her and her partner, the one she's living with, they decided to have a child, and so pray for her also. But anyway, spirit sees spirit. He doesn't see flesh and all of its issues. Mm-hmm. And so when we understand that, I wrote down here, he sees the nature of what you are. He doesn't see you, the spirit doesn't look at you as an angry person. Mm. He doesn't look at you as somebody who just lied. He doesn't look at you as, he looks at your nature. It's like Paul said in the 8th chapter, how that it would, I'm going to bring this up, just make sure it's, please give us just a moment. It looks like it's a while. I just want to make sure it's running. I see them on there. So, the nature of everything is what the Spirit sees. It didn't look at Jesus as a thief. Like the Scripture and all of those things says about a thief. Mm-hmm. Can't enter the kingdom of God. And it talks about a thief in a lot of very negative ways. But here Jesus came in the nature of a thief. Mm-hmm. So what it looks at is the nature of what's going on in the age you're in. And if you match up with that nature, that's what he sees you as. If you take on the nature of Luther right now, the Spirit sees you as a person, a nature without understanding. It sees you as a murderer. It sees you as a liar. It sees you as a victim. if you take on the nature of a victim. It sees you as whatever nature you take on, it's what it sees you as. It doesn't see you as that flesh person that you are. So what you want to do in order to catch an understanding and in order to be in the flow of the Spirit and know that the Spirit is pleased with you, come up to the understanding of your day. Live in the understanding of your day. Live in the nature that's supposed to be here in this day. And by doing so, you have your ups, you have your downs, you have your mistakes. You may get under pressure and tell a lie. You may do all kinds of things. But if you're under the nature and the understanding of what's going on in this day, that's the way the Spirit sees you. And I know that sometimes, I want to say this, when I'm talking, I post some very controversial subjects. I do that on purpose. I want people to think about things and pull out of their old ways, their old understandings, and kind of move on, uncover themselves from the past and move on. So I post a lot of things on my wall and in the forums. I want you to understand this, because some people don't. I'll just tell you that right now, and I know they don't by the things they write back to me. I want you to understand, I'm not aiming it at people. I'm aiming it at a nature that's coming forth out of an organization and out of a denomination, an organization, things that men create, and like the KKK, Ku Klux Klan, like the BLM. I'm looking at the nature of this thing that is praising Karl Marx. The KKK praised, Byrd and many of the guys who done horrible things to the blacks, the Hispanics, and everything else. And it was praising them. And now the Black Lives Movement is praising this whole Karl Marx movement. Have you ever read and paid attention to what Karl Marx did and who he is? And they're praising him. I want to read something to you. This is a poem from Karl Marx. If you don't know who Karl Marx is, he's the guy who wrote up all the concepts of communism, and then Joseph Stalin, and all those guys came in and they began to implement Karl Marx and brought a nature into the earth. And when they brought that nature into the earth, Karl Marx had written a poem after he recanted his belief in Christ as a young man. He was a Christian. Karl Marx, the communist, poetic leader who brought on Russia and all these things. He was a Christian. And it's sad to read, and it's sad to see so many following after the way of revenge. That's what he had in him. He had revenge because of a discontent and a dissatisfied way of life. Our understanding has moved beyond that, beyond his thoughts, his discontentment, his disillusionment with what was going on in his life, his despair. And if you dig into his life and you start saying, I want to be that, you're going to take on a nature. And the nature is going to be one of despair. It's going to be one of victim, because that's what he wrote. It's going to be one of dissatisfaction. It's going to be one of discontent. This is what it's going to be. You're going to be a person who's not satisfied with what you have, and you're always going to want what somebody else has. And you'll try to pass laws for it in your own personal life. You'll try to form governments when it comes to groups. You'll try to do all these things, and because you're totally discontent with what you have. And Paul, the writer in the Bible, said, contentment is great gain, and it's godliness. Discontentment and despair takes you in a horrible place where you're not going to bring forth the flow of the Spirit in your day. Now, he wrote this. He titled it An Invocation of One in Despair. Karl Marx. So a God has snatched me from my all. A God didn't do me right. A God has snatched me from my all. In the curse and rack of destiny. As I was moving down through my destiny, God didn't do me no good. The Spirit didn't do anything for me, and it robbed me. That's what he's saying. All his words are beyond recall. I just don't even want to remember anything about him. Nothing but revenge is left in me. He turned his heart against what the flow of the Spirit was doing in that day. Now, I know we're beyond Christianity today. I know all that. But I'm reading you about a man who was in the age of then, and people are picking his stuff up and trying to go by it now. We're way beyond that. He goes on, he says, on myself revenge I proudly wreak. On that being, that enthroned Lord, make my strength a patchwork of what's weak. Leave my better self without reward. I'm going to move somewhere. I'm going to take revenge. I'm going to do some things, and I don't want any of the reward going to the Spirit of the Lord in any way. That's what he's saying. I shall build my throne high overhead. Cold, tremendous shall its summit be. His throne. For its bulwark, superstitious dread. I'm going to bring superstitions upon the world. I'm going to bring them into despair. I'm going to take them away from the Spirit of the Lord. I'm going to do everything I can in revenge against a God that didn't do me right. For its marshal, blackest agony. Who looks on it with a healthy eye shall turn back. Whoever looks upon it with a healthy eye shall turn back, struck deathly pale and dumb. Clutched by blind and chilled mortality, may his happiness prepare its tomb. I want everybody to get caught up in my revenge, and I want it to blind them. I want it to turn to the blackest agony, and I want it to take them to their tombs. This is the guy that it seems that the whole world is chasing after his thoughts right now. And he says, and the Almighty's lightning shall rebound from that massive iron giant. If he bring my walls and towers down, eternity shall raise them up defiant. Go ahead and do to me whatever you want to do, is what he's saying. You spirit, whatever you are, I am going to do all I can do to destroy you. That's what it's about. So we see this. Might want to close that because I think probably the other dog's up. So we see this now. He goes on, or we go on. We've come past all that. But what you're watching is an age who's taken on that nature. And it's a nature outside of the flow of where Aquarius has taken us. But it's a time of change. And you know, all sorts of things show up in a time of change. I mean all sorts of things. Everything that wants to try to take a hold and grab the age and carry in all sorts of those spirits of the past, those different natures, they're all Christ, but not all of them are for this age. So everything is trying to take hold. But Aquarius is an angelic age, according to many of the prophets and the scripture. There are 4 angelic influences bringing on a new atmosphere as needed in the prophet's writings. They are Michael, Gabriel, Wormwood, and Lucifer. We went through those, and you know how Michael and Gabriel are kind of the positive side of it. They bring out the prophetic things. They bring out the transition and war and recast. Michael recasts things. And then Wormwood is kind of the consequential angel, the things that go on. Wormwood changes the weather, changes the earth. Brother Branham told us Wormwood was the angel that dealt with Noah and flooded the whole earth. And so we have all of these things going on. And then, of course, there's Lucifer. And you know what Lucifer does? He starts out, and it's a ministry. It's not a person. It's not like you think of angels flying around in the air. It starts out, and Lucifer is a process, and it goes from light out into the serpent, out into the red dragon, to the devil, to Satan, and all the way back around, and he picks back up as a prodigal son, and he comes back into Lucifer again, or he moves all the way around, comes back to the wheat. He goes from the seed all the way back around and comes to the wheat again. And so we see that angel's manifestation as one who carries us through temporal processes to get us to the eternal side of where we want to get to. So we have this. Now, in this holistic age, after the finish of the Piscean age, all of these angelic atmospheres bring on the fullness of the all in all. They showed up in different places down through time as microchasms, and we talked about that. But now's the fullness of the all in all, and we see all 4 of these angels bringing on processes, holistic ages, bringing on prophetic things that we've seen for years and now coming to pass, recasting the governments and everything else around us, and it's all happening. The natures of humanity in evolution are now us. We're the natures. We have all these natures upon us. And you make your choices. Mm-hmm. You can bring out a nature in you, because they're all attributes right inside you, and you make your choices. And if you want to go after something that has revenge, something that has, I want to try to deal more in our day. If you go after something that has reparations, if you go after something that says you owe me, I'm discontented, me and my people, whoever it might be, whether it's the whites, the Hispanics, the blacks, the Asians, and you begin to say, we have been treated with discontent and we are dissatisfied and I want what you got. You're moving into a spirit, into a nature that is going to end up in total discontent for you. So watch yourself as you bring out your attributes. You're supposed to be, you and I, we know this, you're supposed to be in the throne room, and you're supposed to be the one sending out the vibes, the vibrations out of there that are eternal, that will go through all these processes and come back around to the wheat. And you're sending out all these vibes that are full of love and compassion and all of these things. And I'm not telling you that you have to agree with everything out here, but I'm telling you, you've got an understanding of everything out here. Pay attention to what you are presenting, because you're presenting something with your life. And I don't want it to be. As I told one person, he wrote me and he said, I think you're a Republican by the things you're saying. I said, well, no. I said I'm an independent. I pay attention to all things, and I take the best things in. And it just seems that right now, if you're going to talk about Republican or Democrat, the Republicans, as lousy as they are bringing forth things that are much more in alignment with our flow than the Democrats are.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm neither one. If you wanted to know, if you just want to say, what's the nature of a Tory? What's the nature of Dom? Probably closer to a libertarian than anything. If you look at libertarians, I'm not saying liberals, I'm saying libertarian. I'm conservative in my lifestyle. I pay attention to everything that's going on. I don't try to put rules and regulations on anybody else. I govern my life to be the best example I can be, but I don't expect you to do what I'm doing. I want you to wake up to who you are and you do what you're supposed to do. That is a libertarian lifestyle. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I said, if you told the brother, I said, if you want to know the truth of the matter, the Democratic Party supported the Confederacy. They supported slavery. They were against the civil rights. I said they were against everything that was trying to unify and bring races of people together. And they still are. The KKK, the white supremacists, they're still out there. There are some of them that are multi-billionaires, almost what you would call trillionaires. And they are funding things like the KKK, the BLM. You say, isn't the BLM black? The BLM is a farce that makes people think it's for the black race. It is not. It is full of Antifa. It is full of white discontents. And if you watch, it's just amazing to watch. And they all say, we love Karl Marx. You say, what are you bringing this out for, Brother Parnell? I'm talking about today. Choices and attributes in you. And you can join up with that very quickly. Doesn't mean you're lost, doesn't mean you're not eternal, but it just means you're falling out of the flow of things, or you're going in a different path than where the Christ of today is. Christ got into the thief and entered the church ages. Christ got into the conservationists and got into the Geronimo and moved into Aquarius. Christ moves into these things. Now what do? If you want to be the Christ in its highest form, in its highest intelligence, in its greatest level of consciousness, you move into what Christ is purposing and doing for today. All of these other things are just things that angelic beings are making happen to bring to pass what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to move on and be the light for this age. If we change the collective memory of our lives to revelation, you have a collective memory. You've collected memory from your date of birth up until this day. And you also have in Christ a collective memory coming all the way back into the fountain, the Great Spirit, way back before anything ever manifested itself in this earth. You have all of that collective memory attributes laying right inside you. So we see this. If we change our collective memory, gathering all these things, it's what we do. When you got up this morning, you begin to gather all the senses. You begin to gather all the smells around you. You begin to gather your senses of sight. You begin to gather up your senses of feel, taste, touch. You begin to gather everything around you. You saw the green grass. You saw the water. You felt it. And you're gathering all these things up. You walked into a room, you've seen the rug, you've seen the person sitting there with glasses on, you've seen the hand sanitizer, you've seen on and on and on. You're gathering everything continually. Millions and millions and millions of things every day you're gathering as collective memory. Now, as those who have come to the highest level of consciousness, and there are highs and lows, you can come into a frequency that's very low. You can come into a vibration that's very low. Or you can come into... I'm not talking about a hierarchy of people. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about frequencies and vibrations that you enter into. So we can change that collective memory of our lives to revelation and understanding. It will help you to remember no more the pain, for the joy that a revelation is contained in you of all things. Jesus said it in St. John 16. A woman in travail has much pain, for that the man-child would be delivered. But after it's delivered, she remembers no more the pain, for the glory that a man-child is delivered. Well, Jesus is not saying, I'm going to take all the pain away and you're going to forget everything you ever learned. He's just saying you're going to take all of that pain and agony and glory and everything, and you're going to change that collective memory over into revelation, and the revelation is going to overcome and overpower and saturate your collective memory with understanding. And you're not going to feel that hurt and that revenge and that anger and that discontent and the way I got treated and the way my mama got treated and the way you're going to turn it all into revelation. So we become things that we are all the way through. And if you want to continue to become more attributes and more things that you are in your age and in your day, then you need to stand for those things that you are. You need to stand there. When you choose to hold on to a hurtful past and view it in anger and revenge without using your reflexation and paying attention and collecting it all and bringing it into your revelation, without using that, you will be a bitter person, a discontent person. You'll have all these things in you. You'll have envy and strife, and you'll say, why do they have this? We don't have it. How come the rich have what they have, and I'm sitting here eating bread this morning with just water or whatever it might be, and they're in their palaces and don't think that way. You are the way you are. You have come through. You have collected it all. And you are the greatest thing that could walk on the face of the earth when you can take that collective memory and change it into revelation and realize who you are for the day and why you're here in this little room with just about nobody around, or why you're in the certain job you're in, why you're in the certain family you're in, why you have certain brothers and sisters, why you have all this. Come to a collective revelation about it. And take that and make it into an understanding, and you'll leave your bitterness. You'll stop envying and wanting everything that somebody else has. And you will be so happy with what's yours. And you will stand on what's yours. You'll understand who you are. Unraveling the painful instances and coming to the revelation and understanding is to quench the fiery darts of the carnal mind. And we all have that carnality in us. Carnality just means flesh. Carne, I think, is a Spanish word for flesh, fleshly things. So we have that within us. And the way you quench those fiery darts of, they shouldn't have done me that way, I shouldn't be in this situation, I should have a better job, I should be with the better people, I should be the one sitting there, they shouldn't have it, it's mine. And when you run with that discontent, it's fiery darts of the carnal mind that will push you to places you don't even want to be whatsoever. I wrote this and I meant it. You see today a lot of people. They're all around the world. Ireland, Scotland, England, America, Africa, Asia. They're burning things down. They're burning buildings down. They're taking their emblems of the flags. They're burning them. They're destroying them. They're doing all these things. I told one person, they said, how can you, a Tory, talk about a flag and compare it to a human life? And I said, you don't understand what I'm saying at all. When I look at a flag, if it's a Philippine flag, I would expect the Filipinos to rally behind that and all that the Filipino people have ever been. And if there's been a bad period, bring it to collective memory and come to an understanding of it and stop having such discontent and hatred for the way the Japanese did you, the way the Americans did you, the way the Chinese did you, and if you carry that in you, you're going to be so full of revenge and anger and discontent you can't enjoy life and you can't live in the attributes of Christ for your day. And that's whether it's Filipino, whether it's England, whether it's Scotland, whether it's Irish, whether it's American. And when I see them doing this in America, and everybody seems to be kneeling everywhere. I don't say everybody. There's a group of people of discontents, people that are not satisfied with the way the Spirit has brought them to in their life. And they'll kneel whenever it comes to the American flag or the Scottish flag or the Irish flag. They're doing it all over. They're even doing it in Canada. You know, they're just doing it. And they think that they are protesting against the way we've been treated. No, that's not what you're protesting against. There is a nature behind that. And that nature is you are saying, I don't have what I deserve, and therefore I am going to kneel and bring on revenge and anger and bitterness and everything else and try to anger enough people to where that we can begin to raise up and riot and kill and destroy and do all sorts of things. And I just looked at that and I sat for months now, for a year. I've watched it and it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. It just started out as a little thing back there. And now it comes on and on and on, and it's brought in all the riots behind it. It's brought in everything else behind it. And I wrote this and I meant it, and you think about it. If you have any trust in me at all, I don't care what nation you're in. I don't care where you're at on the globe. I don't care who you are. Stop your discontentment. And listen to this. Stand for what you are. Don't kneel for what you are not. I'm kneeling because I don't have this. I'm kneeling because so-and-so treated me wrong. I'm kneeling because stand for what you are. All that you are, stand for it, and stand there in your glory and say, we're going to do better. We're going to move further. But complaining and angry and revenge and everything else about where you're at and taking a knee, I'm talking about spirits and natures in this age. Taking that knee is bringing in, you know what it does? It brings you to subjection to something.
Yep.
Did you know that?
Yep.
When you take a knee, it brings you into subjection to that thing. An organization, a king, a monarch, a person, whatever it is. I don't read anywhere where even the Lord himself ever wanted anybody to kneel to him. When I read Jesus, they said, how should we pray? He didn't say, get down on your knees and say, our Father which art in heaven. No. Getting on your knees is I'll just tell you this. I've never subjected myself to much of anything, and I never will. When I see something trying to get me to subject to it, I'm on my way. I'm coming out of it. Third Testament tried it. Branham Message tried it. A lot of people, ministers, tried it. And when Don Parnell seen that they were wanting you to kneel to what they think you should kneel to, I'm not subjecting myself to anything. I don't even read where Jesus Christ. I read where Paul said, when you go in before the throne, go in there and stand boldly before the throne. Don't crawl in there on your hands and knees and say, oh, Lord, I want to subject myself to you and I don't know what to do. Oh, I love this race of people and I'm just going to kneel and because I want them to have better things. I want me to have better things. You know what you're doing? You're subjecting yourself to a nature that is against coming into the Aquarian age. Mm-hmm. There's natures out there and you can put yourself behind them. And when you come into the Aquarian age, you'll end up being one of those angels that's out there doing violence and everything else rather than being an angel in the throne room, bringing the revelation for your hour and pouring out the love that should be in you and the understanding that should be there through your collective memory. I notice these people, a lot of them know me, and they'll write me in anger because of what I'm saying right now. You just don't understand this movement over here, this movement over here. I do understand it. I understand the spirit of it, the nature of it, and how it wants you to submit and subject yourself to it. And I'm not going to do it. I've never subjected myself to a government. I've never subjected myself to a denomination. I've never subjected myself to any organization or anything. And whenever I feel the pressure on me, oh man, I'm on my way. Mm-hmm. I'll shut it down and head out. I told them in 2014, I said, Third Testament, I'd done an autopsy on them. I ministered a message, the autopsy. What happened? What killed this movement? And I went into it and I said, I don't even want to be your prophet. And I walked away. And I never went back. And we went into something else. And the Third Testament is still sitting out there. But I will not subject myself to any cult, any movement, any organization, anything that's backed by supremacists, whether they're white or black, anything that's, all these things, I won't subject myself to it because I want to subject myself to the spirit that is in me. I want to hear me talking. I don't want to hear some preacher talking. I don't want to hear some guy trying to tell me what I need to do. I don't want to hear all that. I want to hear me. Mm-hmm. Me. You know who the most important man in this world is? Me.
That's right.
And every one of you should be saying the same thing. You are the most important person, and you need to hear you.
Yes.
And don't subject yourself to anything else. When I subject myself to me, I am listening to the Spirit for this day and this understanding. Stand for what you are. Don't kneel for what you're not. So we're in an age where we're funneling in, and all the influences. Aquarius is killing out the Piscean age. It's killing out all those vertical hierarchies. It's bringing us to a level playing field. The leadership is now horizontal. There's leadership all across the earth. There's not some person or being or anything else that takes on the leadership and all of you have to go to it. There's not some Mecca in Arabia. There's not some tabernacle in Jeffersonville. There's none of those things anymore. We're out here. We've come into a new age and a new day. I was watching Greek mythology. I love history. I love social studies. I love all of those things. And I don't know if you've ever watched or read the book Clash of the Titans. They had a couple of movies out on it. But I'm watching the Aquarian movement. What are we to expect in the Aquarian age? And I'm watching the Aquarian movement as we step further into its influences in the earth. Symbolically, the Greek mythology had a god called Zeus. Zeus. He was the strongest of all the gods of the Greek mythology. His greatest manifestation of power was he had a horse, and the horse was Pegasus. And Zeus had lightning bolts, and Pegasus had, the little wings look like lightning bolts on him and so forth. And Zeus was riding on Pegasus, and his greatest ride in the houses of the zodiac, which is where all the gods existed, Zeus, his greatest manifestation of power was in the house of Aries and Pisces. That's where he brought on his great power and enthronement and become the mightiest of all. And of course, Aries came from Noah to Jesus. That was Aries. And if you understand anything about Aries, Aries is Mercury is its planet that rules it, and it's the god of war. And just go back there from Noah. As soon as they walked out of the ark, Nimrod raised up a pyramid and began to move and conquer throughout the earth. And from that day all the way through, there was nothing but war, 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 and war in the whole house of Aries. And the god of Zeus, the Greek god, was the god who levitated above them, that took them over in this Greek mythology, that was the enforcer of what he wanted in the earth. That was Zeus. His greatest manifestation in Aries and Pisces. Well, when we moved into Pisces, that was after Jesus hung on Calvary, came to Pentecost, and we moved into the Piscean age right at the same time. And the whole Piscean age is all about hierarchy. And look at what we did. Zeus, and he is the god that brought enforcement to all the other gods. He brought judgment upon all the other gods and upon men. Also, he was the god of Olympian. You know what the Olympia was, the god of sports. So he was law enforcement, and he was sports. And he raised up in all of his power in Aries and Pisces as enforcing his power upon all the other gods and men. And as sports, look at the sports. You say, look at Pisces. the sport that they had. I mean, that they came through and they had all the sports of the gladiators and the arenas and on and on and on. And it was a great age of sports. And look where it ended up, all the way down into the ending of the Piscean age, and they came on with the MLB, the NFL, the NBA, all of these sports and these great giants and great men and great celebrities, and here come Hollywood in, and here come all of these things that the great god Zeus and his reign riding on the Pegasus horse headed towards Aquarius. He brought on all these things: law enforcement, governments, borders, geographical guidelines, split up races of people, done everything. The god of Zeus, he done all this, and he brought it on. And you say, but that's Greek mythology. But look at the world. That's Greek mythology, but it was a symbol of a reality going on in the earth. So you come to the end of Pisces, the great hierarchies, the great sports arenas, the great the baseball players, the basketball players, the football players, the rugby players, the hockey players, the on and on and on, and it's just all over the place. Sports, 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 and more sports. And law enforcement, government, rule of law, got to do this, got to do that. Law enforcement says this. This is that pass all the bills, pass this in Congress, pass this in, and every nation had it. And then all of a sudden, Zeus, the god Zeus, he moves out of Pisces. And when he moves out of Pisces and rides into Aquarius, you know what he does in Aquarius? He dismounts. He gets off of Pegasus. Pegasus is a horse that comes to its rest in Aquarius. And so Zeus rides the horse of Aquarius, Pisces, and when he enters into Aquarius, he dismounts, relinquishing his powers. And Zeus takes his place among men. The greatest god of Aries and Pisces comes down into human flesh and becomes men. And he's ride as that great God outside of us, the Almighty God, the Judger, the Destroyer. Oh, if we got any mercy, kneel, go before Him. Whatever it is, there He is. Zeus gets off of his horse and says, I just want to be a man. I just want to be human. And he comes into humanity. And that's exactly what the Lord has done. I went off of all these great wars and battles. I went out of these big arenas. So when Zeus relinquishes all that he is and becomes a man and just moves down into the earth and he lets his power go, well, take a look at it. The mightiest of gods become a human in Aquarius, and his power, manifestation, and rulership takes a tumble. He's not bringing judgment on law enforcement anymore. He's not putting all the power behind the sports, and he's not. Where do you go watch a movie now? What's going on? Where's the theaters at now? It's not there. Zeus is finished. He's done. And all of Hollywood is crumbling.
Yep.
They're falling apart. That's why they're reaching out as much as they can and trying to strike out. And law enforcement is crumbling. And sports is crumbling. They're all going after all these natures and things. All of these things are happening. It's all crumbling around you. And Hollywood is falling. Los Angeles and Hollywood is sinking into the sea right in front of your eyes.
That's it.
The prophet told us they're going to sink beneath the ocean. And when you come into the Aquarius, the Aquaman, he pours out the water and they sink beneath the ocean, and Zeus is done. Hollywood is finished. Watch the pedophile ring that comes out of all of it. Pedophilia and everything else.
What it was built on.
That's right. Watch what happens. Read the Greek goddesses. They went after kids. They went after children. They had sex with children. They brought children into their... And look at what's happening today. It's all breaking open, and there's pedophile rings in the politics, pedophile rings in Hollywood, pedophile rings everywhere, children being trafficked and everything else. It's the Greek goddess. It's the mythology symbolically actually happening in the earth.
Yes.
But it's ending. And this is the apocalypse. You know what apocalypse means? The unveiling. All of these things are being unveiled. You say, I haven't studied that much, Brother Parnell. Don't worry, I have. I've looked into it. I've followed it. I've paid attention to people that I trust, people that I've talked to, things that I've read, paid attention to how true it is, how reliable the sources are. We are in the apocalypse. It is upon us. Mm-hmm. And this is the unveiling. Mm-hmm. And your nature is what's going to overcome it. Your nature of love and compassion and dealing with these things and feeling, putting your feelings out there that disagrees with these things, but at the same time saying, we're moving to a better place. We're moving to a better position. We're moving to a better humanity. We're moving to a greater understanding. We're moving to a higher level of consciousness. You're watching the great powers of law enforcement making the move and crumbling for a season, recasting themselves. You're watching the whole Hollywood movement crumbling before your eyes. You're watching all of these things taking place. You're watching politics falling apart. Are you watching the tumble of the mighty Major League Sports falling apart as they crumble before your eyes? Zeus is dismounting in Aquarius. The great kingdom that he built is coming down. You remember the old song? Satan, your kingdom's coming down. Satan, your kingdom's coming down. That's what's going on. You say, oh, Satan, that devil. It's just a process. Mm-hmm. And that process is over. And the kingdom that was built by that process is now crumbling before your very eyes. Zeus had that great power. And he rides into Aquarius. And the power that Zeus had in Aries and Aquarius with judgment and law and great arenas of sports are all tainted. They're all falling. And they're all doing the same thing, the Greek mythology, which was written by spirits of men, Christ, understanding where they were going. And symbolically, they're doing the same thing the Greek gods did, taking on little kids and children and everything else, falling into their pedophilia. Apocalypse is opening it all up. They had islands, whole islands. Now they're going over there and they're digging things up and they're finding children's bones all across the islands where they had sex with them. They brought them in. They sacrificed them. They done everything else. And it's your politicians from all over the world. Mm-hmm. It's Hollywood, celebrities. It's all of these things. And we're watching it tumble into the ocean just like our prophet said it would. It's happening all around us because we kept the right vibration. And our vibration is pushing out of the throne room and it's taken over all of those other ripples, all of those other things. It's moving through them and taking them over. Wake up. The influences of Aquarius are upon us. The strongest of the gods have become human. The strength is in humanity now. It's a great day. If you don't understand this, you're going to be the most bewildered, overwhelmed, discontent person in the world. You'll feel like everything has been loosed. Nothing is under control. Mm-hmm. You'll feel so confused. But I feel so good. I see it happening. And I'm keeping my feeling from the throne room. My understanding of my collective memory, I continually change it into revelation, and I say, that's why this organization raised up. That's why this man over here is doing this. That's why these celebrities are all fault. That's why, and I'm watching it, and it's a collective revelation coming to an understanding. And I remember the pain no more for the joy that a man-child is birthed. And I see that man-child inside the red dragon taking over everything and recasting everything. What do we expect in Aquarius? I hope I'm bringing this across to where you can understand it.
It's clear.
If you have questions, I've said it 1,000 times, write them in. I will address them. Send them to me on Facebook. I'll send them to me in Messenger, whatever it is. I'll do everything I can to address them because I see the greatest revelation that has ever struck the face of the earth. And I'm not trying to be no prophet. I'm not trying to be any of those things. I'm trying to help you wake yourself up because you are the most important person in the world. Let's go back to the beginning. When Aquarius, not necessarily when the sun sign, when the sun was moving into Aquarius, but when Aquarius was breaking open through a prophet, William Branham. And you take a look at everything that was going on. And William Branham came up through his life, met angels, had encounters, done all these things. And then he comes in 1946. He steps out into a healing ministry. The orbits change. The atmosphere changes. The whole world goes into a healing revival to draw people's attention to the seals that were going to open. And at the same time, World War II was just ending. And we were headed into a Korean War. We were headed into a Vietnam War, and at the same time, a great stone was cut out of the mountain and brought into the earth, and that stone began to grind every other thing to powder. That stone was the Aquarian revelation, the Aquarian age, and it was coming in by a prophet. And by 1963, he stood up and he opened those seals up. And those seals brought a new beginning, but they also closed up an old book. They closed up all the old. They took us out of Aries, took us out of Pisces, and carried us into Aquarius. And we as a people, humanity, stepped into the Aquarian age 40 years ahead of the sun entering the Aquarian age. Because we had a prophet that caught what was going on and began to bring it out to us. And humanity began to move. The seals opened. He opens them up between Geronimo at the beginning and at the end. He talks about the great conservationist lifestyle that was going to be coming. And at the same time, we had several things going on. And I want to bring out several of those things. John Kennedy, who was the president of the United States at that time. He was in the office at the same time the seals were opening. And William Branham was opening up the seals, and the political realm was right there, and it was opening up a new political realm that was moving on the scene also. After World War II, after the healing revivals, after they stepped out of the church ages in 1956, A brand new age was moving in, and it was the Aquarian age, and a transition had begun. And John Kennedy, on November 22nd, 1963, just a few months after the seals opened by William Branham, in March of 1963, he was shot to death and assassinated in Dallas, Texas, Parkland Hospital. And John Kennedy's birth date was May the 29th. A Gemini. In the office at the time of the great changes. Who's in the office today? A Gemini. Donald Trump. A vice president, Mike Pence, a Gemini. Gemini is once again just exactly like it was in the forefront at the time of the opening of the seals. It's in the forefront again right here. Kennedy was shot and killed. An age was ending. Gemini was in the offices. Lyndon Johnson, born January the 22nd. I'm sorry, he died January the 22nd. Lyndon Johnson, 1973. He was the vice president that moved in. He died in Stonewall, Texas. His birth was August the 27th, a Virgo. I don't even know how to say a lot of this, but do you see a death happening and a man-child coming into birth under Virgo? Lyndon Johnson came in a Virgo, a virgin, a new age for politics, and the old age died, and here comes a virgin. He steps in, Virgo steps on the scene, brings in a new Civil Rights Act, brings in all of these brand new things, and what begins to happen? A red dragon raises up. Lyndon Johnson puts us in a war. When the virgin is there bringing forth a birth, they go into war with Vietnam, and Vietnam is an emblem of the red dragon. The virgin is standing there bringing forth a brand new age of politics, and the red dragon is right there ready to devour the child. Right there. It's all right there. Look at it and you'll see what to expect in Aquarius. Right now. So when they were entering into Virgo, into a virgin, battling a red dragon, and Pope John Paul, his birth date was March the 13th. He was a Pisces. And he died. Pisces was ending. The leader of the religious realms had died. Pisces was dying. They were coming into a brand new age, Aquarius. William Branham was opening the seals. And here comes Lyndon Johnson, the Virgo, to bring it all in. Bring it into a new birth. Bring it into a new day. Bring it into a virgin reality. Pope John Paul, the Pisces, leaves the scene. And it's happening all around us. And here comes Lyndon Johnson. He runs for another term and wins it. And then he knows he cannot win the next one.
Right.
He could have ran, but he sees Robert Kennedy raising up. And Robert Kennedy raises up. And what happens on June the 5th, 1968, at Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, Robert Kennedy gets shot and killed. And Robert Kennedy's birthday was November 20, Scorpio. You know what Scorpio is? It's the water sign like Pisces. He couldn't raise to the throne. It's not a Pisces age. It's not a water sign. He couldn't raise to the throne. He couldn't step in. He couldn't do what everybody wanted him to do.
Right.
We were moving into another age. And the atmosphere that's going on, angels are moving about, bringing things to pass to carry us into the Aquarius age. And they got rid of John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. Say, were those angels that did that, Brother Parnell? Sure. We're moving into the Aquarian age. We were moving into an angelic age. And what happens? Martin Luther King, who was dealing with John Kennedy. And Kennedy wasn't going to give him anything. John Kennedy said no to everything that Martin Luther King wanted. Kennedy was a Democrat. Martin Luther King wanted civil rights. He wanted these things to come in. He wanted laws passed. He wanted everything else. Martin Luther King was raising up, and he was the political side, and he was bringing these things in. And Martin Luther King, on April the 4th, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee, gets shot and killed. He was born on January 15. January 15. He was a Capricorn. It wasn't the age for Capricorn to come in.
Right.
It was for the age of Aquarius to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who remained through all of this killing and assassinations and everything else was William Branham, bringing in the Aquarian age and opening those seals. He was protected until he done his job. And all the rest of them were dying and being assassinated and moving out, and Pisces moving out, and Virgos coming in, and Capricorn tried to, like I said, at the beginning of an age, when the influences are moved, everything tries to take a hold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's angels out there, and they're mass movements into the earth, and they're not letting anything take hold except what's supposed to move into the earth. So by 1968, almost an entire age had left us and moved through Virgo, come out through the Red Dragon, and there was what? Riots everywhere over Vietnam. Raising up riots against this and against that. And the whole world was under those riots. And Vietnam was under the gun. And communism and everything else was going on. We see the riots, whether you want to be communist, or whether you want to be this or that. And they had all of these things going on all around them. And there was, it went through an age, it went through a period of time where that music was changing everything. Music was changing the atmosphere. We come up through music, and we had the classicals, and we had this and that, and then we moved into the Buddy Hollies and all the a lot of the black music. They really came in with the jazz and everything else, and then here come Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis and a bunch of them, and they moved into that movement, and here come the Beatles, and here come this and that, and music was changing the whole atmosphere of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think music doesn't change you, you just go listen to it for a while. You listen to a certain type for a while. Listen to classical and see how you begin to think. Listen to rock. See how you begin to think. Listen to music, and it brings an atmosphere. And what raised up in music? The king of rock and roll. By 1969, all of those political scenes were gone. And the king had raised up. And there was the prince of this type music, and the king of this type music, and everything else. And music was taking over, and there was rock and roll. There was drugs coming in. There was all these things piling in, and there was the Vietnam War, and everybody's doing all this. And then what happened? August the 16th, 1977, William Branham said, I don't see how we can go beyond 1977. And the last great king died August the 16th, 1977, and his name was Elvis Presley. He was gone. 77 had ended. It was over. And Elvis Presley was, January 8th, a Capricorn. So all those Capricorns had to get off the scene while Aquarius came in. Capricorn will have its day. Don't you think it won't? And at the same time, You say, well, those were mostly United States, Brother Parnell. Nikita Khrushchev, September 11th, 1971, just a couple of years after Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King. Nikita Khrushchev, who was the very famous one, and William Branham even tied him in to the great stone cut out of the mountain, and he said the stone struck the 10 toes, which were made up of iron and clay, and Eisenhower, he said, was the iron, and Khrushchev means clay. Eisenhower meant iron, Khrushchev meant clay. And here's the stone striking the 10 toes, which was the message of William Branham, recasting everything. Khrushchev goes off the scene. Eisenhower goes off the scene. William Branham goes off the scene after he opened those seals and he brought in the Aquarian age. He done his job. Elvis Presley goes off the scene. Khrushchev, he was an Aries. He goes off the scene. Aries dies. Pisces dies. Capricorn gets moved out of the way. Aquarius moves in, comes through the Virgin, through the Red Dragon. And then there's Levi Eshkol. You say, who was he, Brother Parnell? He was the leader of Israel at that time. He was born February 26. Oh, another Pisces. And he died in 1969. So Israel was making a great change. Everything was happening. It was moving off a whole scene, a whole house of the zodiac was being moved out of humanity. And William Branham dies, the one who opened those seals, brought in Aquarius, and that power coming forth from the throne room leveled out and took everything that was trying to come in and just took it off the scene. Just removed it off the scene. He was born in April 6, 1909, and Aries, a god of war, and he was a great warrior, and he come out like Michael the archangel, and he warred, and he took everything off the scene that was going to try to destroy the man-child being born in Aquarius. There's so much more in here I could go through, but I know it's getting late. You say, Brother Parnell, you don't talk about the Bible sometimes. Where does the Bible come in on this? He closed the Bible up in 63.
Yep, he did.
It's done. If you read the Bible now, you better read it with the understanding of this day and be able to look at its patterns and microchasms and everything else and say, oh, I see a little piece there and I see a little... But I'm not going by the Bible. If that scares you, you need to find somebody else to listen to on Sunday morning, Friday nights. Because I'm not going by the Bible. I'm going by the collective revelation of all things and understanding, and I'm watching our day and our age, and don't think that I'm not paying attention to every person in prominence that's born, every person that's doing these things, every person that dies, the ages moving out, the atmospheres that are moving in. I'm paying attention to all of it. I'm seeing Elijah and Ahab and Jezebel. Go back and read those things. That's what's going on right now. I'm seeing Elisha and Jehu and Hazel. I see it happening all around us. We'll get into some. I'm seeing Elisha and Gehazi and Captain Naaman. I'm seeing people that want something that they don't have. You remember what Gehazi did? Captain Naaman had all of that great riches. And Elisha was the prophet, and Gehazi was his servant. And Gehazi, after Captain Naaman is healed in the River Jordan, 7 dips after the 7 church ages, Captain Naaman comes to a healing, and he's got great powers and everything about him, and Gehazi gets a discontented feeling and says to himself, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get what Captain Naaman has. We healed him and we deserve some of his riches and some of his glory. And he went out there, did what he did, And Elisha, when he come back, he said, I know what you did. I see the spirit that you have. I see the nature you're bringing forth. And Gehazi, you'll die with what Naaman had. And leprosy come upon him. I see a lot of people in a lot of these things we understand that's taking on a spirit of Gehazi and saying we're important. We've got the healing power. We've got the understanding. We see more than anybody else. And these things that they have, we should have. I'm not going there. I'm not going there at all. I have everything I need. Every attribute is inside me. The love of Christ is inside me. My love for humanity is inside me. And I don't care, like Brother Branham said, I don't care if I got to drink branch water and eat soda crackers. I am not going after anything, and I am going to be happy and content in the position I'm in. In the things that I'm doing. And whether you are a mother washing those clothes every day, taking care of those children, or whether you're a mother that has no husband at home and you're out there doing everything, whatever you're doing it all to bring you into a greater revelation and a greater understanding, and pay attention to the feelings and change that discontent to revelation and understanding of what's going on in your day and age. Elisha, Gehazi, Captain Naaman, where are you at? Are you inside the throne room sending out vibrations and frequencies like Elisha was? Are you outside the throne room needing to feel those vibrations and frequencies to pull you in and catch an understanding, Captain Naaman? Or are you the Gehazi that looks at it all and says, I didn't get what I deserve. I'm discontent. I think I'm just going to kneel for the things that I don't have, for the things that I am not. And when he did, leprosy came upon him. Don't go there. It's a serious issue. Joshua. What went on in the book of Joshua? I'm rushing through these things because I want you to see a little bit of the pattern in the Bible. What went on in Joshua? The inheritance came. They came out of Egypt 40 years. They walked through the wilderness 40 years. Then they entered into Canaan land, and Joshua ruled them for 40 years. And they were given all the inheritance of Canaan land. And then what happened? They got in there. They got all the inheritance. And judges began to raise up. After all the inheritance of moving into the opening of those seals, and Aquarius comes on and everything's moved out of the way, here comes all the judges on the scene, and they raise up and they say, but you got to believe the two-soul doctrine or else you're going to hell. But you got to walk like this or you're going to hell. You got to live a holy life or you ain't born again. You got to have the Holy Spirit. If you don't have the Holy Spirit touching you, if you haven't spoken in tongues, if you have on and on and on, and they just judges go on and on and on. And the 13th judge, the final judge, rose up, which was Samson. And you want to know what Brother Branham preached? At least 6 or 7 times, closing to the end of his ministry, he took the life of Samson and he preached on once more, Lord. And he showed how Samson brought all the kingdom down upon him because he had an ego and he didn't listen. And he became discontent, and he became all those things, and he wanted women outside of where he should be. He wanted riches outside of where he should be. He wanted all these things, and he brought the whole thing down on him and crumbled it and tumbled it. Samson was a type in humanity of Zeus, the strongest in the world. And we enter Aquarius, and Samson takes a tumble. 13 judges. Joshua, the inheritance. Judges raise up all over the world. Go through 40, 50 years. And then what happens? Here comes Ruth. Just go back there. Read. Follow your your Bible, follow your books. There's Joshua, there's Judges, and then there is Ruth. And Ruth enters into the house of Boaz and completes the redemption plan. There's no more redemption plan. We're not trying to redeem anybody. It's finished. It's over. And Ruth steps into the house of redemption, takes on the cloak of Boaz, lays down in the threshing floor with him, takes his cloak over her, and the twain become one, and they raise up, and Ruth and Boaz bring on the perfect redemption plan, and they go out and they tie in and they bring forth the children that go right down through time and bring forth the Messiah in Israel. This is what's going on. We've come through Joshua. We've gotten our inheritance. We opened those seals. We know who we are. We have a collective memory. We've taken it to understanding. We have come through all these judges and all of their little doctrines and ideas and everything else, and telling us we got to do this and got to do that and got to live this way, got to act this way. We come through all the judges. We entered the book of Ruth, and Boaz himself has come on the scene, and that is us, our spirit, our inner being. And we took Ruth, our flesh person, and we submitted her to what's on the inside, the Boaz. And we completed our redemption plan by waking up to who we are. What are we going to do? Where are we at, brother? I'm showing you the things that we are expecting from Aquarius. Nehemiah. Go back and just look at your books. Don't even read them if you don't want to. Just look at your books. Nehemiah, a book is written. What's Nehemiah about? How many knows what Nehemiah is about? It's about the rebuilding of Jerusalem and the temple. And then after the book of Nehemiah comes the book of Esther. What's Esther about? The queen entering the throne room and becoming one with the king. So we got Jerusalem being rebuilt over there after the world wars. We got the temple. We got all those things happening over there in Israel. They re-enter their nation. They become a nation again. They begin to build Jerusalem. They now have Jerusalem as their capital. And we have went over there and set our embassy up in the capital and calling it the capital. They have everything. Jerusalem is rebuilt, and Esther has entered into the throne room. After Nehemiah had done all that, we entered the throne room. William Branham declared them a nation, declared their flag, declared everything about them, and then took Esther and went into the throne room with her. And we become one in the age of Aquarius with the king. And the king said, I'm going to give you up to half of the kingdom. Don't forget, there's a Haman in there. If you read your book of Esther, Haman wanted what Esther had. Haman wanted what Mordecai had. He wasn't satisfied with what he had. I want what somebody else has got. And you know what happened to him? He was planning on getting everything of Mordecai's and raising up and becoming the great man in the kingdom. And he got what he wanted to give Mordecai. He got hung on the gallows. Don't get hung on the gallows. Don't go after what somebody else has. Don't get all fussy about, oh, my ancestors were treated this way. It's collective revelation. It's an understanding. It had to happen that way for you to be where you're at today. Don't get caught up in that stuff. And what comes after Esther? Nehemiah, the rebuilding Jerusalem. Esther enters the throne room. Here comes Job. The resurrection. That's what Job is all about, the resurrection. Everything he lost, he regained. All of his 7 sons, everything that he lost, he regained it. He come into a resurrection, and what did we do in Matthew 22? After we lost the 7 sons, the 7 brothers, after we done this and that, we entered into the throne room and brought on a resurrection. The Bible's full of it. If you want to go after your Bible, but you better go after it with a revelation. Not just going there reading and trying to set up a set of rules. Look at the patterns. Look at the understanding. Look at what's going on. Look at the age you're in. Look at the spirits of discontentment, disillusionment. Look at the pedophiles falling. Look at the sports arenas tumbling. Look at Hollywood going under. Look at all these things. It's Aquarius. And a prophet 50-some years ago leveled the playing field, took everything out of the way so Aquarius could come on the scene and raise up and flourish. And what have we got? Battling the red dragon, battling China's economics, battling all these things, and riots everywhere, and everybody. And what are they doing? Coming against law enforcement. Zeus has dismounted. Law enforcement, the red dragon, the economy, everything's here again. Everything is here again. The Gemini in the office. I haven't been sitting around doing nothing. I've been paying very close attention for years what is going on. And my collective revelation says you are the people in the throne room with a revelation of Jesus Christ, with a revelation of who you are. It's a great understanding. Mm-hmm. It's everything. I hope I've helped you some. It's getting a little bit late. Is there anything you'd like to say, and I'll...
Well, you have to understand that it's a new age, and all things have to be proven in a new age. He just gave you many examples of that. How in the new age, certain things had to die out, other things tried to come in and weren't allowed because they didn't fit in the flow of the new age. So, in doing that, your interest will reveal what character you're building, what things you're going after. And if you're going after things that do not fit in with the flow of this Aquarian age, just get ready for Michael and Wormwood to be your buddies along the trail.
That's right.
Because that's what's going to happen. The results those two guys are going to be your ministries. And if you can see how to fit into the Aquarian spirit,
yes,
no matter what you're born under, take that nature, because your nature, my nature is a Capricorn, but I understand right now the nature in the earth is an Aquarian nature. And so what do I have to do? To be a part of this, I have to change my Capricorn nature into an Aquarian nature and go with that flow. Doesn't mean I'm not a Capricorn. It just means I am becoming more of an Aquarian because that's the flow of things. And in doing that, now you're going to see, like with me, more of a Michael Gabriel companionship, spirit companionship going on. You can look right inside yourself, follow your interest, because it will reveal where you're going.
That's
and
right.
What's going to happen.
That's right. What are you interested in? If you're interested in the Bible, if you're interested in books, if you're interested in all these things, you're probably not going to go too far in this day. Or you may have a happy little life, but you're not going to have an understanding. You've got to pull yourself away from all of those books and use them as stepping stones to enter into what we're in today, and realize that the book is breathing. The book is walking. The angels are here. I remember one time somebody asked me, said, Brother Parnell, you're saying that the angels are like the stars in heaven. And I said, you're right. As the stars are in heaven, so are the stars in earth. No, that's not true. Yes, it is. Abraham, look up to the heavens and look up there, because as the stars of heaven are, so shall thy seed be in earth. We're here now. The angelic age has come. We're in the earth. We're doing what we're supposed to do. Don't get caught up in discontent, disillusionment, and end up being one of those sacrifices out here for the true age to come in. Because you can. And there are sacrifices. And there needs to be sacrifices. Don't think that these people who are going after those things are such horrible people. Don't think that way. They just are people who have chosen to be a part of the sacrifice to bring in this age, this understanding, and bring us all to a higher consciousness. They're angels. They're glorious.
They're here to bring attention to it,
That's right.
to sharpen our focus
Yes.
on what is happening and how we need to change it and progress
Yes.
forward.
The same way that millions and millions of angels piled into the earth with polio, leukemia, cancer, lame, halt, wheelchairs. They come pouring into the earth because in 1946 there was going to be a prophet raised on the scene, and there was going to be hundreds of men behind him that had healing ministries and just healed and healed and healed to pull attention into what was going on. That's the same now. Look at these millions upon millions that are coming in here angry and rioting and tearing things up and burning this and doing that. They're pulling attention to a change of an age. Just like those people sacrifice their bodies, those angels sacrifice their bodies. These people are sacrificing their bodies.
And they will use styles like the Marxists. They're being proved that they don't fit into this age, and they'll have to go through that proving. The communists, the social, every one of them, and the ones that go with the flow, it'll be proven and they'll progress. And the other ones that don't, they'll die out. They'll regress. Things will change.
That's right. It's a great day. I hope I haven't upset some of you. But in order to bring out the revelation of this day, sometimes you just got to mention people, you got to mention organizations, you got to mention names to bring those things on the scene. William Branham stood in his day and preached Jezebel religion and brought out the Pope, John Kennedy, John Kennedy's wife, Jacqueline Kennedy, and brought out the Catholic Church and just used names and everything else and just laid it out. Well, I'm telling you, you get caught up in these organizations that are out here right now, these big supremacists and all these people yanking down statues and all these BLMs and Black Lives Matter written across the streets and everything else. You get all caught up in it and you go out there and you paint it up and you glorify it. You're going to end up right in the middle of a horrible situation, the same way KKK did back during the days after the Civil War, all the way up until about 1960, when the civil rights came in 64. Boy, they ruled, but they fell, and they fell hard. And any of these organizations are going to do the same. This is a brand new age. They're not going to make it. Please, I'm begging you, I'm telling you, I'm asking you, I'm showing you, don't get caught up in it. That's why I speak and put many of the things that I put out. I ain't putting it out because I'm mad. I ain't putting it out because I'm against blacks or I'm against whites or I'm against supremacists. I'm against the nature and the spirit behind it that's pulling people in. I'm telling you, there's a better way. It's all Christ, but you don't have to go that way. You don't have to. There's a better way.
And if the things that you hear through these broadcasts upset you, you're not upset with him or me or anyone else. You're upset with yourself. You have lost connection with yourself in the flow of these things, and it's you that are upsetting yourself. It's your contrast to these truths that are upsetting you, and you need to turn inward and deal with that. Because until you do, you're gonna keep exploding outward until it just destroys you.
Every time that wagon goes by, you'll jump wagons. They did this wrong. They did that wrong. They shouldn't have done. You'll jump wagons in a minute.
Yep.
If you're not grounded in the revelation, you'll jump wagons. And you'll take off down a road, and you might get 10 miles down the road before you realize you don't want to be on that wagon. Okay, we better close it up. Love you. Thank you for everything. We appreciate being here with you. For those of you that come on, a lot of things happening here in the United States right now that has to do with everything from the riots to COVID to everything else. I don't know exactly what I'm going to have to do to make sure, because some states are actually passing laws that you can't do this. You can't have house services and house worship. You can't do any of it. If that happens, don't worry. I'll figure out a way, and we'll be together.
Yep.
You know, I may have to. Well, you know, there's things that we'll have to do. We'll have to change it up.
Change it up.
Where it ain't a service.
Yeah.
where it ain't a fellowship. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe we come together to play games, and we just talk about things while we're playing games.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
Change the format,
So,
but it will progress.
Yes. So we love you, and I'm not walking away, not from this. It's the greatest thing that's ever struck the face of the earth. You see your day, your hour, and your message. Be content, be loving, be compassionate. Do all those things and reach out and let your flow take over all these other things.
Yes.
In the name of Christ. Be healed. Receive the things that you need for your day, the things that get by. In the authority of Christ, it's yours.
Let's see.